Am I the asshole for not attending the wedding of my cousin and my ex-boyfriend? I, 32 female, was engaged. Ex-fiance was engaged to marry Travis, 33 male. But a couple of weeks before the wedding was supposed to take place, he said that he didn't want to get married. I asked him if he was cheating, and he said no. He told me that most of his friends were already marrying or starting families, so he thought it was time to settle down. But he had just realized that he didn't want to. Suffice to say, the wedding was canceled, and that was the end of our relationship. It's been about a year since that happened. Things haven't been exactly great, but I've managed. Well, some days ago, I received an invitation to the wedding of my cousin, Taylor, 26 female. Imagine my surprise when I read it and saw that my ex-fiance was the groom. I had only seen them barely interact during family meetings. I hadn't noticed any clues that pointed to anything happening between the two of them at the time. Some info about my cousin. She's what some people would call a free spirit. She doesn't have a conventional job. She works as an artist. She dyes her hair in unusual colors, sometimes blue, sometimes green, and dresses extravagantly. Once she wore a white robe, another time she wore a black leather jacket and spiked boots. She says that she doesn't like following society's rules and that she only follows her own code. Immediately, I called my parents. I asked them if they had known something about Taylor's relationship with Travis. To summarize, yes, they did. They hadn't intended on telling me because they figured out there would be no positive outcome to it, but they also made it clear that they expected me to come to the wedding anyways in order to show support to my family. At this point, I lost it and shouted that they were delusional if they believed that I would go to the wedding of my cheating liar ex and his manic pixie dream girl. They said that I can't keep holding on to my hatred and resentment forever and that I need to let it go. I hung up on them. My extended family has been blowing up my phone since then, saying that I'm a bad person if I don't attend. Right now, I feel so confused, betrayed, and disappointed. I'm no longer sure if I'm being irrational or not, so I think it might be best to ask for an outside point of view.
Growing up, I was in foster care and I didn't get adopted. Until I was 13 years old, and I got adopted by the best family ever. They had a son who was a few years older than I was, but I got along with him really well. He was just like the big brother that I never wanted. I was welcome with open arms into their home, and he also had this best friend. Now, the best friend was always just really nice to me, and I think I developed a crush on him just because he was one of the few people who showed me kindness when I first moved there, and I just really liked him. But like I said, there was an age gap, so obviously nothing was ever going to become of that. However, the older I got, the more and more my crush grew on him, because he would do things like my brother and him would come to my middle school because they were in high school, and he would leave me chocolates and stuff in my locker, I think just to make me feel better. And honestly, who would not have a crush on a boy who did that for them? You know what I mean? Then the worst day of my life happened. He got a girlfriend, and she was beautiful, so obviously I was jealous, but she was such a bitch. She would just make really bitchy comments, but she would do it in a way and she'd be like, oh, I didn't mean anything by that, da 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 da. One time she made a comment about how I must be so happy to be living with them since I didn't really ever have a place before, and just would talk about me being in foster care, and just the way she said it, I could tell, and my best friend could tell, and even I think my brother's best friend could tell because he was giving her looks, but everybody else at the table wasn't really picking up on the digs she was making. Anyway, this went on for years. They still stayed together, and she would make these comments at me, and they would just make me feel really uncomfortable. But he would constantly say things to me you're my number one girl, you'll always be my number one girl, da 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 da. And he said something to me one time that was you'll always have a special place in my heart. Especially after something that happened between us while they were still together. Maybe we got a little too close. That's a whole other story. So I understand me fostering this relationship knowing he has a girlfriend is wrong, but I'm also saying that she has never once been kind or nice to me. So while I do feel really bad about the situation, I don't feel as bad as I would if she was actually a decent person. Not to excuse it, I'm just throwing that out there. After years of us doing this song and dance of, well, we'll get too close, we'll pull away, da da da, finally something happened where we eventually ended up in bed together. And I'm not proud of this moment, but I'm just Like, always, was getting mixed signals from him for years. I had a crush on him for years, and when the opportunity arose, I am not gonna lie, I took it. After we woke up in bed together, I felt really bad about what I did, and I was like, this can never happen again. This was a mistake. He was like, don't call it a mistake. Like, it wasn't a mistake. Being with you can never be a mistake. I'm like, okay, well then, why are you with her? Like, you clearly don't love her. And he's like, I made a promise. Like, I can't break my promise. And I'm like, what is this promise? Like, I couldn't understand why he's still with her, especially, like, doing what he did with me, saying it's not a mistake, but, like, you're still with her. So, like, what is going on? Finding out the truth just makes me feel even worse than I already feel.
This is the youngest woman in America to ever be put on death row. Christa Pike. Wow, where do I even start? Christa was born with severe brain damage because her mother was drinking pretty heavily throughout her entire pregnancy, and Christa had a terrible childhood. I'm not even gonna lie. Her parents were neglectful and abusive. Christa was often bounced around from mom's house, dad's house, grandparents' house, and they all sucked. By the time that Christa was 15 years old, she had been essayed by multiple men, and this abuse started as early as when Christa was 2 years old, and one of these men even included their dog in the essay of 12-year-old Christa. By the time that Christa was 18 years old, she was a high school dropout. She spent some time in juvie, but she said that she wanted to turn her life around, so she joined Job Corps. If you're not familiar with what this was a government-funded program where troubled teens and early adults could live on this campus all together. They would finish their education, learn skills, so hopefully one day they could have a great career. But only after a few days on campus, Christa met 17-year-old Daryl Ship, and they started this relationship. It was extremely toxic. Daryl was really into a lot of really weird, dark, creepy things, and this toxic, abusive relationship that they had completely distracted them from what they went to Job Corps to do, which was better their lives. Christa also started this feud, you could say, with another girl on campus, 19-year-old Colleen Schlemmer. Colleen was at Job Corps for all the right reasons. She really did want to better her life and have a great career one day with computers. That was her dream. But Colleen was sucked into this petty teenage drama by Christa. Christa was convinced that Colleen wanted her man to Daryl and that Colleen was obsessed with her man. But if anyone in this case is obsessed with anyone, Christa was obsessed with Colleen. She was always talking about her, how much she hated her. She was pretty much stalking her around campus, threatening her and bullying her all the time. And then one day in January of 1999, Christa goes up to Colleen and asks if they want to call a truce, and asked her if she actually wanted to hang out that night, kind of like a peace offering. So that night, 18-year-old Christa, her boyfriend, 17-year-old Daryl, and their friend, 18-year-old Shadola Peterson, all lured 19-year-old Colleen off of campus, and then once they were alone in this creepy part of the woods that was like off of a park, Daryl and Crystal attacked Colleen while Shadola kind of stood back and was used as a lookout. This attack on Colleen lasted over 45 minutes and it was brutal. They were kicking her, beating her. They used a sharp weapon on her 300 times, and then they were dropping these big cement blocks on her until Colleen's skull was completely fractured. Christa even took a piece of the skull back to campus with her and was showing people and bragging to anyone that would listen about what she had just done. Christa has just unalived Colleen over jealousy over a boy, Daryl, that Christa had only known for 3 months. This was all over a 3-month-long relationship. And for some reason, all of these kids on campus that Christa is bragging to that she just unalived Colleen did not tell anyone until Colleen's body was found 2 days later. In police custody, all 3 of them were arrested, obviously, and they all made full confessions. And Christa was smiling the entire time, like she was totally pleased with herself. Since Shadola didn't actually have any physical involvement, technically, in the unaliving of Colleen, she walked away with only probation. Daryl, who was only 17 years old at the time, was sentenced to life in prison with possibility of parole in 2026, which is not that long away, but personally, I don't think there's any chance that they will let him out. And Christa, who was only 18 years old when she unalived Colleen, tried to blame her actions on her bad childhood. We hear that all the time. She was sentenced to death row and was the youngest woman in America to ever be sentenced to death. And Christa, who to this day has never shown any emotion or remorse for Colleen and Colleen's family, cried. She cried a lot. She bawled her eyes out when she found out that she was going to be sentenced to death. Christa also said that she did not think that she deserved to die, but Colleen did. Because you were insecure about your 3-month-long relationship, like, girl, please. And to only further prove how heartless Christa is, only a few days after she was sentenced, she sent to Daryl this letter. I'll put part of it on the screen now so you can pause and read it, but it's disgusting, and you will see. There is not an official date set to unalive Christa, but there's been a lot of talk recently to actually set a date since this happened all the way back in 1995. So if you want updates on that, you can always follow me. I'm constantly updating on the cases that we cover. There has been some controversy. Some people believe that Christa at 18 years old was too young for her sentence. Also considering that Daryl was 17. So, you know, a year, actually only a few months younger than Christa. They received life in prison versus, you know, the death penalty. So why is 17 so different than 18? You can let me know what you think about that. Personally, I think that Christa is exactly where she should be.
Am I the astronaut for wanting to dump my fiance after she injured herself while I was away? Originally posted July 10th, 2024. While I, 30 male, was away on business, my fiance, 32 female, decided to go out without telling me. We spoke in the afternoon. I was on my way to the airport ahead of an 8-hour flight, which was arriving at 5 a.m. Her friend had just come back from out of state, and she was planning on taking her out to dinner. Once I landed, I didn't want to wake her as she normally gets up around 7. I got home, and she wasn't there. Her car was parked outside, but she wasn't in bed. For a moment, I panicked and thought she had gone to surprise me at the airport, but somehow I missed her. But her car was outside. I call her and her phone rang to voicemail. I called 10 more times while I shower and change. At first, I wasn't too worried, thinking maybe she went for a run, but the scenarios running through my head were getting darker. We have our phones on our iCloud account in case we lose them, so I bring it up to find her location. Her iPhone was at a hospital. My heart sank. I start heading to the hospital. All her family live out of state, so there's no one to call. The hospital is 10 minutes away. I speed, run red lights, park right in front of the emergency department door, and go in like a maniac, demanding the triage staff to tell me where she is. They take me to her room. She's asleep in bed, but I can immediately see she's hurt. Her lip is swollen, and she looks like she's been beaten up. Bruises on her face, splint thing on her nose. My panic and worry morph into rage, and I demand to know what has happened and who did this to her. I was informed that she arrived in an ambulance at 2 a.m., having drunkenly stumbled and face-planted onto the curb while leaving a bar. She had a broken nose, chipped tooth, and other minor abrasions and scratches, but she was going to be fine. This made absolutely no sense. I seriously feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. I don't drink, never have, and she hasn't touched alcohol since college, basically. I don't know what's happening at this point. She's tried to offer up some kind of explanation about her friend pressured her to have wine while they were at dinner, and then somehow they ended up in a bar. She apparently has no recollection and teleported there. I've been giving her the silent treatment, and it's 8 p.m. She has been crying and wanting some sort of consolement or reassurance, but I genuinely think I'm done. This whole thing just came out of left field, and I'm not handling it well at all. We've been living together since we got engaged, and it would be a pretty clean split. Her parents own the house, so I can basically just take my stuff and go, I guess. I really don't know what to do. We've been together a year and a half, and I feel like we could get past this, but it's like the whole ordeal and the emotional roller coaster have sapped away the love I felt for her. Anyway, sorry for the novel, but will I be the astronaut if I dump her? OP, I get it, I'm the asshole. Enough people mentioned that she was roofied, so we went and got a drug panel done, and it came back clean. She just had too much to drink. Just to clarify, since a lot of you said I'm controlling or whatever, I'm really not. She's free to go out with or without telling me. It's just she normally always tells me her plans exactly, which is why this one was so abnormal. Also, I never said I had a problem with her drinking. She's a grown woman and she can do whatever she wants. It's just that she never drinks, which is why this was so shocking. She has a concussion, which we're blaming for the trouble remembering. I don't think she was blackout drunk, and neither does she. I'm not trying to defend my initial reaction, but I have a very stressful job, which has taken its toll on my mental health for sure, and I make an effort to eliminate any sort of non-work related stress as a matter of necessity. Coming back to my wife in the hospital seriously injured was absolutely devastating, and I didn't react well. My first thoughts were that she was attacked by someone, which infuriated me and made me want to go find whoever it was. Once I realized there was nobody to blame for this except her, some of those negative emotions were directed towards her. I'm not saying it's right, but I can't control how I feel. Let me also be clear about one thing. I was not ignoring her. I just really didn't know what to say and wanted to let her rest. I was processing the situation, and I knew if I didn't control what I had to say, I might say something that blamed her or was hurtful or something along those lines, which is why I decided to hold my tongue until I sorted my feelings. Yes, I know I'm the asshole. Here's the update by OP in the comments. She broke off the engagement. We had a long talk, and apparently I've been cold and unsupportive. I disagree, but whatever. And she feels betrayed by my attitude, ? She thinks my expectations are unrealistic and that she's a human, not a robot. She said she needs someone who can let her fail, and I am not that person. The title of this update is, Will I be the astronaut if I don't return the expensive watch my ex-fiance's father gave me? July 13th, 2024. We broke up after being engaged for 6 months. One night when we were at her parents' place, her father gave it to me as a gift. It was shortly after we got engaged, and it wasn't my birthday or anything like that. There was no occasion. He just gave it to me and said, I want you to have this. He took it off his wrist. I'm unlikely to ever see him again as he lives in California and I live in New York. He hasn't asked for it back, nor has my ex. I doubt she has any clue what it's worth, but I've had it appraised and it's worth over $70,000. Will I be the astronaut if I keep the watch and don't say anything?
Am I the a-hole for getting pregnant before my sister-in-law? My boyfriend and I have been together for 3 years. He has a brother who's 3 years older than him, who has been dating his girlfriend, who I'm going to refer to as sister-in-law. She's not really my sister-in-law, but makes it easier. He's been dating her for 7 years, minus their 6-month breakup. That was bad enough that she moved out of the house. They weren't talking. It was messy. But they got back together around Christmas time. I get along super well with everybody in my boyfriend's family. His parents, his siblings, even his grandparents. The only person I've ever had a problem with is his sister-in-law. And I am not the only one. His mom hates her. She's always said that she gets a really bad feeling about the girl, even before the breakup ever happened. It's not because she's a toxic boy mom, because she loves me and always says that she sees me as the daughter she's never had. It has always been clear that my sister-in-law has an issue with the way that my boyfriend treats me. Now, I'm just gonna say it. I'm baby in the relationship. I am spoiled. My boyfriend takes care of me like nobody else. Anything I want, he makes sure I have. Like, he is just the biggest gentleman. I don't touch a door handle. I don't remember the last time I've touched a door handle, to be honest with you. Now, my boyfriend's older brother and my sister-in-law have a very different relationship. It's a lot more of a 50-50 relationship. He's not buying her a ton of gifts. He's not taking care of her in the same way that my boyfriend takes care of me. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody wants a different kind of relationship dynamic, and a different relationship dynamic works for everybody. But it's just clear that my sister-in-law wants the dynamic that me and my boyfriend have and not the one that she's in. Something that drives me nuts about this girl is that she copies everything I do. And they say that copying is the highest form of flattery, but not in this case. It's just really annoying. It started really small with her changing to use the same makeup products I use, the same shampoo and conditioner, but then started building on that. To her going to the person who does my hair and asking for the same color and cut. That's weird, right? Like, that's a weird thing to do. She also started going and buying the same clothes that I would buy after I'd buy them. Like, I am not a gatekeeper, but I felt like I couldn't even tell her where I was buying my clothes from because I was like, girl, at some point we're showing up to the same events in the same outfits. Like, if she was wearing something like different than me, she would go home and change so like one of our articles of clothing would be the same. Like, that is so weird. The craziest one to me is that my boyfriend bought me a new car for our anniversary. It was my dream car with all of these special customizations. Ugh, I love it. But then after we showed his family, my sister-in-law decided that she needed a new car too. She went and got the exact same car with the exact customizations. Like, she literally went to the dealership and was like, hey, you know this guy who bought this car? Yeah, I want that car. And when she couldn't get the custom tires that my boyfriend got for the car because they were out of stock, she threw a temper tantrum at the dealership. It was like the worst day of her life when she found out that her car couldn't be exactly the car that I have. Now, for the most part, I can look past this and see that it's her own insecurity, has nothing to do with me, and just let it go. But not recently. Let's jump to this January when, surprise, I found out I was pregnant. It was a shock, to say the least, but me and my boyfriend have always known that we wanted to get married and have a family and have kids, so we were actually really excited about it. We told both of our parents first, who were equally as excited as us, and then we waited a little bit to tell the rest of our family after we had a few more appointments. And my boyfriend was so excited to tell his older brother. They're super close. So it was actually the person he was most excited to tell. We took his brother and my sister-in-law bowling and broke the news there. His brother was over the moon excited. He was telling us congratulations, giving us huge hugs, but my sister-in-law said nothing. And she was giving me the dirtiest look I've ever gotten in my entire life. She didn't say anything, not even congratulations, and she just walked off to drink alone at the bowling alley bar. The bowling alley bar! Then she came back and was speaking to my boyfriend and my boyfriend's brother for the rest of the night, but would not say a word to me. Even when I tried to address her directly. Wouldn't look at me, wouldn't say a word to me. She didn't say congratulations to me or my boyfriend and didn't speak a word to me until she grumbled a goodbye as she left. The next morning, she sent my boyfriend a text basically apologizing for her behavior and saying that the news was really hard for her because, as everyone knows, she has had reproductive issues and has been told that she does have fertility problems. So the news was really hard for her. She said that the news was some of the most devastating news she's ever heard in her entire life. Okay. And honestly, I really do sympathize with her. If she would have texted me directly and been like, hey, I'm sorry for how I acted. I'm sorry for how I treated you last night, but these were the emotions that I was going through. I was dealing with all of these things and that wasn't fair to you. I'm sorry. But that's not what happened. Okay. First of all, she didn't text me. She texted apologizing to my boyfriend who she was talking to. She was talking to my boyfriend. My boyfriend didn't get her cold shoulder all night. I did. But obviously she can't come out and apologize to me. That would be way too much for her. And then instead of, apologizing for how we may have felt, she just victimized herself the whole time, talked about how what we did was terrible. Spending the whole text kind of making us feel guilty and bad for having a baby. Like, I'm sorry, and I understand the situation's hard for her, but to villainize us and put us in the wrong simply for telling family that I'm pregnant. And I mean, that's so classic to my sister-in-law. The girl can never just apologize. She has to be like, well, I did this because everybody else was in the wrong. And honestly, even though what I did seems really wrong on the surface, I'm actually not really wrong at all. You all are. I just blocked her number. Honestly, if she wasn't even going to text me to apologize, what's the point? I need to protect myself. I need to lower my stress levels, protect me and my baby. I couldn't be dealing with this. So I just thought, you know what? I don't want to sit around waiting for her to text me because inevitably she's going to text me something that's going to upset me. So I'd rather just not deal with it. She must have noticed because a few days later, she asked my boyfriend to get me to unblock her number so she could apologize to me. I did, and she sent me an apology, similar to my boyfriend's, basically just saying that finding out that I was pregnant was super hard for her and that I should just be mindful when talking about my pregnancy around her. And you know what? I've always kept my mouth shut, but I went off on her for the first time ever. I said that for years, I've diminished my successes and happiness and achievements because she gets upset about all of them. But when it comes to my family and my future child, no, it's not about her. It's about me and my family, and I'm allowed to be happy about it. Since then, we say hi to each other at family dinner, but not much else. Fast forward 3 months, and I get a random text one morning from my sister-in-law asking me how my pregnancy is going. Now, silly me for thinking that she was trying to turn a leaf and be a better person. And I told her it was going well. And that's when she told me that she wanted me to be the first to know that she found out she was pregnant that morning. Of course, silly me thinking that she wanted to have a conversation about me and the things going on in my life. Had to be about her. And she starts going on about all the supplements she took that she made my boyfriend's brother take, yada, 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 all of these things, just sending text after text after text. I honestly had no idea what to say to this, so I just stuck to a simple congratulations. And then she told me to make sure to not tell anyone else because I was the first one she told. I mean, honestly, I was just so confused about the whole thing. I did tell my boyfriend, and then the two of us told his mom together. The whole thing made everyone super angry. First of all, the fact that she told me first, girl, we all know what you're doing. After us not talking, us having issues, it's just petty and weird and just not a cool thing to do. 2, this was a spite jealousy baby. Now, she had been told by so many doctors that any pregnancy she has is going to be super high risk. So when she wants to get pregnant, she needs to talk to doctors about it and kind of go through the process. But did she do that? No. Okay, she just went ahead and got pregnant and did it super irresponsibly in a way that's unsafe to her and the baby. 3, y'all just went through a super serious breakup. So why is she trying to rush a high-risk pregnancy? My boyfriend's mom has been planning my baby shower since we found out I was pregnant. And I'm due at the end of September, so we're having the shower at the beginning of August. At family dinner, my sister-in-law dropped the bombshell that she's going to be sending out her baby shower invitations this week, and she'll be having her baby shower 2 weeks after mine. Now, my boyfriend's mom suggested for her not to have the baby shower until like October, November time. And my sister-in-law got extremely upset and said that people aren't going to buy her as many gifts if it's around the holiday time. She's also demanding that my boyfriend's mom help plan her baby shower in the same way that she's helping plan mine. So my poor boyfriend's mother is so stressed. I mean, now she's being forced to plan 2 back-to-back baby showers. She did not sign up for that. I keep telling my boyfriend's mom that she can take a rest from my baby shower, focus on my sister-in-laws, my mom can help me, my friends can help me, but my mother-in-law says that she's just so excited about her first grandchild and she really wants to be a part of it. And I just feel like my sister-in-law is ruining this experience for my boyfriend's mom as well. The majority of my boyfriend's family doesn't even know that his brother and my sister-in-law are back together because the breakup was nasty and everybody knew about it. That's how dramatic it was. So honestly, his brother was embarrassed about telling people that they were getting back together. So the news that she's pregnant, it's gonna be a shock for sure. Everyone is being as supportive as we possibly can be for my sister-in-law and my boyfriend's older brother, but the whole thing is weird and it just feels like she got pregnant to be petty or out of spite or jealousy. The whole situation just feels really weird. And now my boyfriend's older brother is going to their dad and complaining that I'm getting all the attention from the family and they're taking all this time to plan my baby shower and all of these things, and that my sister-in-law feels left out. When we're like, listen, my pregnancy is coming up, my due date is coming up, and hers isn't. And yeah, I'll admit, my boyfriend's mom is more excited about my pregnancy than hers. That's just because the two of us are so close, and I've made an effort to get close to his mom. She literally tries to isolate her brother from his family 24/7. So, but I don't know. Maybe I'm the a-hole for how I'm handling the whole thing.
Last year around this time, we were looking for a house to rent within our area. We found a house that was in our price point and it had a pool. I was like, this is gonna be great. We go to see the house, the realtor shows us around. I'm like, everything looks good. The only thing is that we're gonna need to do an in-person interview. So we get fully approved and we go for our in-person interview. And on the day, the realtor stops us before we walk in and she says, hey, things might get a little weird, but just hang in there. I look at my husband and I'm like, okay, we're good with weird. We sit down and in comes the owners. It's a mother, a daughter, and her other daughter. So basically one mother and her 2 daughters. The mother lives next door, one sister lives behind the house, and the other sister lives in front of the house. That kind of felt a little too close for comfort, but I'm like, I'll bite. We find out that this house used to belong to their aunt who is no longer with us. We have the interview, everything's going well. They start asking questions about my pregnancy, our dog, ha ha ha, hee hee hoo hoo. Then they said, okay, we need to discuss the pool. Now in the ad for this house and everything we knew about this house, this pool was part of the rental and we were renting the entire property. So they say, this pool is going to be a community pool. The 2 sisters between them had 4 children and those children liked to use that pool during the summer. Now they did say that they would do all the upkeep of the pool, but basically those kids would be able to come over and use the pool whenever they wanted to. They said, how do you feel about that? I said, well, I don't know how I feel about that because the baby's room is going to be the one that's right near to the back of the house, which is where the pool is, because there really wasn't another room that would be a baby's room. And I was going to be a new mom for the first time, and I didn't think I wanted a bunch of kids in the backyard playing and screaming and whatever, because it was 4 kids, but essentially they'd be bringing their friends and coming over whenever they wanted to. So I'm like, what are the rules that we have here? They said the rules are that we can use the pool whenever we want to. I said, but what if I'm having a day in my new mom life and it's a little hectic or the baby's sleeping or whatever and we say no? And she looked at me and said, well, you can't say no. And if you do say no, you're gonna have 4 angry children standing outside your gate screaming and yelling. Her whole demeanor kind of changed and she was just like, not accepted. Hey, listen, your house, your rules. You can rent them with whatever rules you want to. Personally, I found it a little bit weird, considering the price and considering the fact that nothing had ever been said about this pool being shared. So I looked at my husband and I said, I think that gives us a lot to think about. Thank you so much. And we left. They called us about a week later and said, so are you going to rent the house? We declined. Didn't feel like a good fit. But I want to know, is this insane? Is that crazy? Or is it like my house, I can rent it with whatever terms I want to? They had also mentioned in the interview that they were having a hard time renting the house. I think I know why, but I want to know, is that insane? And is this something that you would be okay with? People coming in your backyard whenever they want to, however they want to, and as many times as they want to.